Let's talk about a habit that's holding way too many women back: being too nice. I'm not talking about kindness, generosity, or compassion. I'm talking about that exhausting need to be liked by everyone, to say yes when you mean no, to shrink yourself so others feel comfortable. I know this pattern because I've lived it. Saying yes when I wanted to say no, smiling when I wanted to scream, agreeing with things I didn't believe in just to avoid making waves. Sound familiar? Here's the truth. You teach people how to treat you, and if you keep bending over backward, people will keep expecting you to. If you keep putting everyone else first, they will keep letting you. This isn't about blaming others. It's about realizing that you are in control of how you show up in your own life. So let me ask you, how many times have you bitten your tongue because you didn't want to upset someone? How many times have you taken on extra work because you didn't want to disappoint? How many times have you said yes while every part of you was screaming no? It stops today. Your voice matters. Your time is valuable. Your energy is precious. And you don't need permission to set boundaries, speak up, or put yourself first. And listen, if someone gets upset because you're no longer available to be their personal doormat, let them be upset. Their reaction is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to yourself, to honor your needs, to protect your peace, and to live life on your terms. Being liked isn't the goal. Being respected, being happy, and being authentic, that's the goal. So today I challenge you, stop being the nice girl. Be the strong woman. Be the woman who knows her worth. Be the woman who isn't afraid to say, no, that doesn't work for me. Because the moment you stop living for approval is the moment you start living for you. Thank you. Being nice and being kind are not the same thing, but so many of us have been taught to believe they are. From the time we're little girls, we're told to be nice, be polite, be agreeable. We learn that making others comfortable is more important than expressing what we really think or feel. But here's the problem. Niceness is often about people-pleasing, while kindness is about authenticity. There is a massive difference between the two, and understanding that difference is the first step toward reclaiming your power. Niceness is performative. It's a habit built around keeping the peace, avoiding confrontation, and making sure nobody is uncomfortable, even when that means sacrificing your own needs. You say yes when you want to say no. You smile when you're frustrated. You apologize for things that aren't your fault. And over time, this constant suppression of your real feelings chips away at your confidence. You start to believe that your needs don't matter as much as everyone else's. But here's the truth. Kindness is not about being agreeable all the time. Kindness comes from a place of strength. It means treating people with respect, but also respecting yourself. It means being honest even when it's uncomfortable. It means setting boundaries even if it disappoints someone. When you're truly kind, you're not trying to control how others see you. You're not bending over backward to be liked. You're simply being real. Think about the people in your life that you truly respect. Are they the ones who always say what you want to hear? Are they the ones who never disagree, never speak up, never stand their ground? No, the people we admire most are the ones who have the courage to be themselves. They are direct, they are honest, and they don't change who they are just to fit in. That's what kindness looks like. The problem with being the nice girl is that it puts your self-worth in other people's hands. If someone is happy with you, you feel good. If someone is upset with you, you feel guilty. It's exhausting. It turns every interaction into a performance where your goal is not to be real, but to be accepted. And when you do that for too long, you lose touch with what you actually want. You become so used to prioritizing everyone else that when someone asks you, what do you don't even know how to answer, but you have a choice. You don't have to be the nice girl anymore. You can be the woman who chooses honesty over approval. You can be the woman who isn't afraid to say no. You can be the woman who understands that kindness isn't about making everyone happy. It's about being true to yourself. The moment you stop equating niceness with kindness, everything changes. You start speaking up. You stop over apologizing. You stop worrying about whether people will still like you if you disagree with them. And you know what? The right people will respect you more for it, because real connections aren't built on people pleasing. They're built on authenticity. So stop being nice at your own expense. Start being kind in a way that honors who you really are. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you tolerate, and what you reinforce. Every time you say yes when you really want to say no, you're teaching people that your time and energy are not priorities. Every time you let someone talk over you or dismiss your opinions, you're showing them that it's okay to ignore your voice. And every time you let someone cross a boundary without consequence, you're signaling that your boundaries don't really matter. The way people treat you is a direct reflection of the standards you set for yourself. A lot of us grow up believing that being agreeable, flexible, and accommodating makes us good people. We think that if we keep everyone happy, they'll respect and appreciate us. But that's not how it works. People don't respect doormats. They respect people who respect themselves. If you keep letting people take advantage of you, they will. Not because they're bad people, but because you've never shown them that there are consequences for overstepping. Think about someone in your life who always seems to get what they want. They don't hesitate to say no. They don't over-apologize. They don't put themselves last. And yet people still respect them, listen to them, and value their presence. That's because they've set the expectation for how they want to be treated. They've made it clear that their time is valuable, that their needs matter, and that they won't settle for anything less than mutual respect. Now, think about your own life. How many times have you said yes when you really wanted to say no? How many times have you over-explained your boundaries because you were afraid of disappointing someone? How many times have you allowed someone to treat you in a way that made you feel small, uncomfortable, or disrespected just because you didn't want to seem difficult? Here's the truth. You don't have to explain why you need space. You don't have to justify why you won't tolerate certain behaviors. You don't owe anyone an elaborate reason for your boundaries. A simple no that doesn't work for me is enough. The moment you stop over-explaining and over-apologizing, you start training people to respect your decisions without needing a full dissertation on why you made them. Setting boundaries isn't about pushing people away. It's about teaching them how to engage with you in a way that is healthy and mutually respectful. The people who genuinely care about you will respect your limits. The ones who don't, they were only benefiting from your lack of boundaries in the first place. The more you reinforce your standards, the more natural it becomes. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. You might feel guilty. You might worry that people will think you've changed. But here's what really happens. The people who truly value you will adjust, and the ones who were only there to take advantage will fade away. That's a good thing. You don't need people in your life who only stick around because you're easy to manipulate. You are in control of how you are treated. The moment you start showing up differently, the people around you will either rise to meet your standards or remove themselves from your life. Either way, you win. Your voice matters. It always has, but somewhere along the way, you were taught to silence it. Maybe it was when you were a child and someone told you to be quiet and not make a fuss. Maybe it was in school when you were overlooked for speaking up. Or maybe it was in relationships where you learned that keeping the peace was easier than expressing your needs. Over time, you started swallowing your opinions, biting your tongue, and prioritizing harmony over honesty. And now, without even realizing it, you hesitate before speaking up, constantly wondering, is this worth saying? Will this upset someone? What if they don't agree? The problem is, Every time you silence yourself to make others comfortable, you make yourself smaller. Every time you agree just to avoid confrontation, you teach yourself that your opinions don't matter. Every time you let someone talk over you, dismiss you, or ignore your input, you send a message to yourself and to the world that your voice isn't as valuable as theirs. But that's a lie, because your voice does matter. Your thoughts, your ideas, your feelings, they are just as important as anyone else's. And the moment you start believing that, everything changes. There is a difference between keeping quiet because you're thinking and keeping quiet because you're afraid. One comes from wisdom, the other from fear. And too often we let fear dictate our actions. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of being labeled too much. But here's the thing, staying silent doesn't protect you from judgment. It just makes it easier for others to overlook you. It doesn't shield you from rejection. It only ensures that you reject yourself before anyone else gets the chance. People who speak up aren't necessarily fearless. They just refuse to let their fear make their decisions. They know that their voice carries weight, that their perspective is valuable, and that their ideas deserve to be heard. And guess what? When they speak, people listen. Not because they're louder, not because they demand attention, but because they believe in what they're saying. Think about the times when you did speak up, when you stood your ground, when you expressed what you truly thought. How did it feel? Maybe your heart raced, maybe your hands shook, but deep down, there was a sense of power, a sense of ownership. That's because using your voice is an act of self-respect. It's a way of saying, I am here, I have something to say, and I will not be ignored. Of course, not everyone will agree with you. Not everyone will like what you have to say, but that's okay, because your goal isn't to be agreeable, it's to be authentic. The right people will appreciate your honesty. The ones who don't, they were never really listening in the first place. The more you use your voice, the stronger it becomes. At first, it might feel uncomfortable. You might second guess yourself, worry about how others will react. But over time, it gets easier. You start to trust yourself. You start to realize that your opinions are just as valid as anyone else's. And you stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. Your voice has power, but only if you use it. So stop waiting for permission, stop apologizing for taking up space, and stop silencing yourself to keep the peace. Speak up. Say what you think. Make yourself heard, because the world doesn't need more people who play small. It needs people who are bold enough to stand up and say, this is who I am, this is what I believe, and I will not stay silent. You are not responsible for everyone's feelings. Read that again. Let it sink in. Because for too long, you've been carrying the weight of other people's emotions as if it's your job to keep everyone happy, comfortable, and at ease. It's not. You have been conditioned to believe that making others feel good should always come before your own needs, and that if someone is upset, disappointed, or frustrated, it must be your fault. But that's simply not true. People are responsible for their own emotions, just like you are responsible for yours. Yet, time and time again, you find yourself twisting into knots, walking on eggshells, and sacrificing your own peace just to keep others from feeling uncomfortable. You say yes when you want to say no because you don't want to let someone down. You over-explain yourself so no one feels offended. You apologize for things that aren't even your fault because you can't stand the thought of someone being upset with you. And in doing so, you become a prisoner to their emotions, constantly trying to manage reactions that were never yours to control in the first place. Think about how exhausting that is, how draining it is to be hyper aware of how everyone around you is feeling, making sure they're okay, even at the expense of your own well-being. You put so much energy into ensuring others are comfortable that you end up uncomfortable And even worse, you start to believe that your own needs don't matter as much as everyone else's. But here's the thing, people are going to feel what they feel no matter what you do. You could say all the right things, make all the right choices, be the most accommodating and understanding person on the planet, and someone will still find a reason to be upset. Not because of you, but because of them. Their reactions come from their own experiences, beliefs, expectations, and emotions that have nothing to do with you. You cannot control how others feel. You can be the kindest, most supportive person, and someone will still misunderstand you. You can set the most reasonable boundary, and someone will still think you're being difficult. You can express your needs, and someone will still feel disappointed. And guess what? That's okay, because their emotions are theirs to process, not yours. The moment you realize this, you free yourself. You stop taking on responsibility for things that were never yours to begin with. You stop trying to make yourself smaller to avoid upsetting people. You stop over-explaining, over-apologizing, and overcompensating. Instead, you start living in a way that prioritizes your peace, your needs, and your emotional well-being. This doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It doesn't mean you become rude, dismissive, or unkind. It means you set boundaries. It means you let people feel what they feel without feeling the need to fix it for them. It means you recognize that someone else's disappointment doesn't mean you did something wrong. It just means they're processing their own emotions, and that is their responsibility. Not everyone will like this version of you. Some people have benefited from your constant emotional labor, and they won't like when you stop giving it so freely. That's okay. The people who truly respect you will adjust. The ones who only stayed because you made their emotions your problem, let them go. You deserve relationships that are built on mutual respect, not on your ability to manage someone else's feelings. So take a deep breath and remind yourself you are not responsible for everyone's happiness. You are not responsible for making sure no one ever feels uncomfortable. You are responsible for you, and that is more than enough. Being liked should never be your life's mission. Yet so many of us have been raised to believe that if people approve of us, if they like us, then we're doing something right. We've been conditioned to seek validation from others as if it's the ultimate measure of our worth. But the truth is, the constant need for approval is exhausting, and worse, it's a trap. The more you chase after being liked, the further you get from actually liking yourself. Think about how much of your life has been shaped by this desire to be liked. How many times have you changed your opinion because you didn't want to create conflict? How often have you held back from saying something real because you were afraid of how others would react? How many times have you smiled through discomfort, agreed to things you didn't want to do, or gone along with something just to avoid being judged? When you live for approval, you live for everyone but yourself. You become a version of yourself that is molded by other people's expectations, opinions, and standards. You start making choices not based on what you want, but on what will make others happy, what will keep you in their good graces. And over time, that leads to resentment, exhaustion, and a deep disconnect from your true self. Because no matter how hard you try, you will never be able to make everyone like you. Here's the truth that will set you free. Not everyone is going to like you, and that is perfectly okay. Some people won't like your confidence. Some won't like your boundaries. Some won't like your success, and that has nothing to do with you. Their perception of you is shaped by their own experiences, biases, and insecurities. You could be the kindest, most genuine person, and someone will still find a reason not to like you. So why waste your energy trying to please people who will never be satisfied? The moment you stop obsessing over being liked is the moment you start respecting yourself. And when you respect yourself, you attract people who respect you too. The right people will appreciate you for who you really are, not for the version of yourself you perform to keep the peace. They will value your honesty, admire your confidence, and respect your boundaries. And the ones who don't, they were never meant for you in the first place. Confidence isn't about arrogance. It's about knowing your worth without needing others to confirm it for you. It's about trusting your instincts, owning your decisions, and standing firm in who you are, even when it's unpopular. It's about understanding that your opinion of yourself matters more than anyone else's. So ask yourself, would you rather be liked for being someone you're not or respected for being who you truly are? Would you rather exhaust yourself trying to please people who don't even see the real you? Or would you rather live freely, knowing that the people in your life accept you without conditions? When you shift your focus from being liked to being authentic, everything changes. You start speaking your mind without fear. You start making choices that align with what you want. You stop apologizing for being yourself. And in doing so, you give yourself the freedom to live life on your own terms. You do not need everyone to like you. You need to like yourself. That is where real confidence begins. That is where happiness begins. And that is where you start living, not for approval, not for validation, but for you. You do not have to earn love, respect, or validation by proving your worth to others. You are enough as you are. But for so long, you've been operating under the belief that in order to be accepted, you have to constantly do something, work harder, give more, be more agreeable, accommodate everyone's needs. You've convinced yourself that if you just prove yourself enough, people will see your value and treat you accordingly. But that's not how it works. The more you try to earn what should be freely given, the more you attract people who will take advantage of that effort. When you believe that your worth is something that must be proven, you give away all of your power. You bend over backward to be seen, to be chosen, to be appreciated. You tolerate disrespect because you think if you just do one more thing, they'll finally treat you the way you deserve. You overextend yourself, saying yes when you want to say no, giving more than you receive, and constantly feeling like you're one step away from finally being enough. But here's the truth. You were always enough. You just didn't realize it. The people who truly value you won't need you to prove your worth. They will respect you because of who you are, not because of what you can do for them. But when you surround yourself with people who only stick around because you keep proving yourself, you set yourself up for exhaustion and disappointment. You will never be able to give enough to people who only see you as someone to take from. The only way to break free from this cycle is to stop playing the game altogether. The moment you realize you don't have to prove yourself to anyone is the moment everything changes. You stop over-explaining your choices. You stop chasing after people who don't reciprocate your energy. You stop feeling like you need to accomplish more just to be worthy of respect and love. Instead, you start operating from a place of confidence. You start setting boundaries. You start surrounding yourself with people who see your value without needing you to perform for them. This doesn't mean you stop putting effort into relationships, work, or personal growth. It means you no longer attach your worth to how much you do for others. It means you understand that love, respect, and appreciation should be mutual, not transactional. It means you recognize that the right people will appreciate you for who you are, not for how much you sacrifice for them. Think about how much time and energy you've spent proving yourself to people who didn't truly see you. Now imagine what would happen if you redirected that energy back into yourself. Imagine what your life would look like if you prioritized your own growth, your own happiness, and your own well-being as much as you've prioritized proving your worth to others. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to earn the right to take up space, to have an opinion, to be treated with kindness and respect. You don't have to overextend yourself just to be seen. You are already worthy, already enough. And the moment you start acting like it, the world will follow your lead. The most powerful thing you can do is trust yourself. Not seek permission, not wait for validation, not look to others to tell you what's right for you. Just trust yourself. But for so long, you've been conditioned to believe that other people know better, that their opinions matter more than your instincts, that their approval is necessary before you take action. And that hesitation, that constant second guessing, has kept you stuck. You've been taught to doubt yourself in ways that run deep. Maybe it started when you were young, when the people around you dismissed your feelings or told you that you were being too much or too sensitive. Maybe it was in school when you learned that speaking up could sometimes get you into trouble. Or maybe it was in relationships where you convinced yourself that keeping the peace was more important than standing your ground. Over time, you stopped trusting your gut. You started questioning yourself before making decisions, looking to others for guidance instead of listening to that quiet voice inside that already knows what's right for you. But here's the truth. No one knows what's best for you better than you. No one else has lived your experiences, felt your emotions, or walked in your shoes. So why do you keep handing over your power to people who don't have to live with the consequences of your choices? Why do you let their opinions dictate your path when they aren't the ones who have to walk it? The reason self-trust is so difficult is because it requires you to take responsibility. It means owning your choices even when they don't work out perfectly. It means making decisions based on what you want instead of what will keep everyone else happy. And that's scary because when you trust yourself, there's no one else to blame. There's no one else to turn to when things don't go as planned. But the trade-off? Freedom. When you trust yourself, you stop over-explaining. You stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to live your life the way you want to. You stop feeling like you have to justify your choices to people who don't even understand your vision. You simply decide. And when you decide with confidence, the world takes notice. The people who succeed in life aren't necessarily the ones with the most talent, connections, or resources. They're the ones who trust themselves enough to take action even when there's uncertainty. They don't waste time seeking approval or overanalyzing every step. They listen to their intuition, make the best choice they can, and move forward. And when things don't go as planned, they adjust, they learn, they grow. But they don't waste time doubting themselves. Think about all the times you knew what you needed to do, but hesitated. All the moments when your gut told you something wasn't right, but you ignored it because you didn't want to upset anyone. All the opportunities you passed up because you were waiting for someone else to tell you it was okay to go for it. What would have happened if you had just trusted yourself? Where would you be now? The good news is it's not too late. You don't need more opinions, more reassurance, or more permission. You need to trust that you are capable, that you are wise, and that you already have everything you need to take the next step. No more waiting, no more second guessing. Just trust and go. Stop being the nice girl who sacrifices her needs, silences her voice, and bends over backward just to make others comfortable. You were not put on this earth to shrink yourself for the sake of approval. You are not responsible for managing everyone's emotions, and you do not need to prove your worth to anyone. Your voice matters, your boundaries matter, your feelings matter. And the moment you start believing that, really believing it, your life will change. Not everyone will like the new, unapologetic version of you. Some people will be uncomfortable when you start speaking your truth, setting boundaries, and prioritizing yourself. Let them be uncomfortable. Their reaction is not your responsibility. The people who truly respect you will celebrate your confidence, not punish you for it. So stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting to be liked. Stop waiting for someone else to tell you that you're good enough. You are enough. You always have been. And now it's time to start acting like it. Stand up, speak up, take up space, and never apologize for being exactly who you are.